Midnight on Earth podcast with your host, Jake Weaver. Engineered by Cedric Swan. Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Midnight on Earth. I'm your host, Jake Weaver, and we're here to bring you more knowledge, more light, and more love. Yet another astounding guest. I promise you people, I work so hard to bring you the best guests, bring you the people with the highest frequency information. So much good information. We have Anne-Marie Keppel here today, and we're talking about her latest book, Death Nesting, the Heart-Centered Practices of a Death Doula. She's a death doula. She has so much to share with us. It's going to be amazing. But first, I need you to do something for me. Follow me on Instagram at midnight_on_earth. That is the address. You can follow me there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you go to get your podcasts, click that button that connects us. So when amazing people like Anne-Marie come on, you get that notification instantly. You get a ding, you look over, oh my God, Anne-Marie Keppel's on the show. I'm listening right now. So sign up there. And of course, word of mouth, tell a friend, you know people in your life that need this information. There's so much growth happening on this planet right now. And we're bringing people the best information. You know these people, bring them here. midnightonearth.com. Okay, so we're going to talk to Anne-Marie just a second, but first I have to read her bio. So here we go. Anne-Marie Keppel is a death doula educator and founder of the nonprofit Village Deathcare, a nurse assistant, Reiki master, and lifelong meditator. She guides individuals transitioning out of life and assists families with the end-of-life journey. Experienced in home funerals, green burials, and psychedelic-assisted therapy, her work as a death doula has been published nationally in the Washington Times, on usnews.com, and in Pulp magazine. She also won an Independent Publisher IPPY Award in 2020. Anne-Marie delights in the joy of living with her family in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. And by the grace of the divine, she's here with us today. Hello, Anne-Marie.
Hello, Jake. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
By the grace of the divine, indeed.
Yes. Well, we have so much to share with people. People, I feel like, generally don't understand how brief the human experience is and how we have these cycles that are a part of life, birth and death, and they're so natural and they're so beautiful, but they come up quick. You're here, and then you're gone. And it's so important to honor this death experience. I feel like as Western culture, we've lost touch with that.
Absolutely. And, just something that you said that we don't realize actually how short of a period we're here for. Even people who have, people know that they're going to die someday, but they're still shocked when they get the diagnosis, or they're still shocked, even if they have a terminal illness, they're still shocked when the time comes. So even like as soon as they approach the active dying process, it seems like people just say, I thought I had more time. That's
interesting. True. And even though when your consciousness, like you talk about in your book, is slipping in and out of this dimension, you kind of lose a sense of time. So really, when you're in that spiritual state at the end of your physical life, it seems like your whole life technically has gone by in 5 minutes. It has that feeling of 5 minutes. I'm sure people have told you that as a death doula.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's actually why I started doing this work in the first place. So what I was doing was very shallow. I was a music manager and an event coordinator, and I would coordinate festivals and weddings and concerts and all of these beautiful, fun things, and people had a great time. And then the end of the night came, and over the years, I just felt more and more empty from that work. And I'm like, why? Everything is moving so fast. Do you ever feel like the day of the week you're just surprised by the day of the week. You're like, it's Thursday again. And so that was just happening week after week after year. And I'm like, I need to get out of this because it's feeling so empty. And this is not what it's not fulfilling me. And what did end up fulfilling me and having me feel like that life is the most beautiful, precious, unimaginably blissful blessing is studying death. And so it's funny, it took that polarity. It wasn't all of the excitement and the good times that made me feel like life was awesome. It was actually studying the absence of it that made me realize that, wow, what we're doing here is really profound.
Oh, absolutely. Profound, brief, and that energy you were feeling that was actually fulfilling you is that ethereal, extra dimensional energy that's coming from source, that's showing you that there's something bigger than us, at the very least, because of this death experience. But for some people out there that don't know, what is a death doula?
A death doula is nothing new. So it's just somebody who helps somebody who's dying or any other being that's dying. So there are animal doulas, and of course there can be environmental doulas. There can be all kinds of things. So it's helping people with the transition. People are more familiar with birth doulas.
Right.
So a death doula is the same concept, the same idea. You're just ushering the life out rather than ushering it in. And the work is ancient. It's natural. It's what one does when they care for somebody and then the dying time comes. So the term death doula is new. That's the part that is kind of trending, if you will. It's kind of a spark in social networks right now that people think like, oh, I want to do that. And that's a beautiful thing. But the work itself is not new.
Because you think about civilizations like Egypt, where their whole cultural impetus was to prepare for death. Death doulas, or people in that similar role, were probably exalted, or at the very least treated like high positions of authority, because it was such an integral role. You're helping the soul transition to its next phase of life. I'm not sure what else is more important except for the birth experience.
Oh my God, I would love to study that. I don't know much about that, but you're right. For a civilization that had such like high respect for death, and that must have been a really admired position. So the word doula is Greek, and it was typically assigned to a female who was a servant of sorts. So it lended itself nicely to be a title, but it also goes by other titles. There's end of life doula. People are grief doulas, or just lots of different titles.
So it's similar in a way, for people to understand this, to a midwife, right? You're there assisting where there really isn't a need for any kind of medical doctors. Not that there would be, but you're there assisting the spirit, the spiritual aspect, and the process, right?
Yeah, it could be. So it's true. Doulas, death doulas. I'm not a birth doula, so I'll just stick with death doula. But
Okay.
We don't do anything with medicine, and so we are not medical professionals unless we happen to also be medical professionals. And we're not therapists and we're not lawyers. But each of those can end up kind of playing a role. Like you can assist people through the paperwork. You can assist people, companion them through medical appointments. You can companion them through, or just have really good listening skills for holding space, whatever they're going through. So we take little elements from those things. But really it's as you were saying, a midwife, but also just a companion. And so what I like to do is I teach the family and the community to care for the one who's dying. So there's a lot of people have lost their way. They don't really know how to do this kind of care anymore. And they need to be reminded that they're capable of it and that it's okay. Like, you're going to mess up. It's going to feel awkward. And so I really just give families and communities, I build the network around the person who's dying, and really just like give them permission to care for the person who's dying. Um, and they get it. And unless they don't, and they don't want anything to do with it because they're scared or whatever situation it is they're very uncomfortable. But for the most part, the people come together and they get it, and they want to care for their loved one.
Oh, absolutely. Because the whole process of contacting a death doula and going that route is a choice of love. It's a love-based choice. You're going outside of the norm, I guess, the current Western culture norm, to find this spiritual ambassador, you could say. Do you feel like you're in a shamanic role? Because it seems like you are, because when you're in that space as a death doula, you're representing the post-death experience. You're representing what's on the other side. You're like, hey, I'm your guide. I'm your companion. I'm your death shaman, you could say, to help you transition.
Yeah, so there are a few different things. So the death doula itself typically wouldn't be doing any of that spiritual care. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So a death doula would really be doing things more like companioning them. They're a heart companion. They can sit vigil. They can help with groceries. They can help with animal care. They can help with paperwork. There's something else called a psychopomp, if you will. And that is more the spiritual care. So a death doula might, they're listening to their existential angst. They are asking them what their beliefs are, and they're trying to help them feel not alone. They're trying to help them feel safe and feel loved. Now, I do psychopomp work, but I don't want to put it out there as a blanket that all death doulas do that, because it's very specific. And yes, as you're saying, it can go by many, many different titles, but I do help them escort their consciousness out of their body.
Right. There is a sense of guidance there, it seems. I mean, even if you are not necessarily doing the deep spiritual work with that person, you're there as a representative. And again, there is that sense of guidance.
Yeah. So it's important to remember that people will die no matter what. They'll die on their own. So they don't actually need you there. I believe that plenty of other beings come and are in attendance. And so I don't actually believe that it's possible for somebody to die alone. But there are sometimes people just need help getting out of their body because they're scared. And so what I do with them, I'll go into a kind of light trance state and try and meet them where they are. And it helps in advance to know a little bit about the person's life. So actually, a lot of people that I work with are very, their beliefs they're animist, or their beliefs are very rooted in nature. And so I'm not always sending them off to God. I'm not always sending them off to something, a higher power. Sometimes people want to they believe their body is going to dissolve into the earth, and that they're going to kind of walk out of their body, and then that's it. And so it helps to know the things that brought them great peace and comfort to begin with. So if they were all about walking through the forest and they found great peace and solace in the forest, then I can help guide them visually out of their body by simply walking into the forest.
Wow, that's mind-blowing, because really you're just meeting people where they're at. Like you said, not even really in the trance state, but just as an individual, the things they loved, the things they cared about, what they thought were important and beautiful things. That's where you meet the people.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And how many deaths have you been a part of so far?
That's kind of hard because Well, I've lost count, so I don't know.
Wow.
It hasn't even been all that many. Like, so what I'm saying when I've helped people out of their body, a lot of times I'm not even there. So I'll get the family set up. It's very private. This is one of the most, it's like the equivalent of being in the room with the person who's giving birth.
Wow.
It is so private that if I'm not called to be there, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to be there. And sometimes I've been called and I'm like, you can do this. You can be there with your person. You're fine. I'll have had a relationship with them, and if they're not fine, I will be there. But
Right.
That's not what this is about. I don't want to be like I don't want to be like the savior. I don't want to like come in and save the day and help everybody and help them out of their body. And my whole thing is to empower other people, to empower them so that the next time they don't need to call me at all. They can do it themselves. And that's what I work really hard to do, is rework this knowledge back into the community.
Oh, wow. That's very important, because the way you do things as a death doula is a natural experience. It's like how it should be. We've lost touch with that. Why did we lose touch with that? What are some of the causes of just this disconnection?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is the introduction of antibiotics. So all of a sudden, people were dying of just infections, and it was a very terrible time when you could have had an antibiotic and it would be cured, but it wasn't a possibility. So it was really antibiotics and the hospital boom that came in with the United States. So in about the 1920s, late 1920s, when hospitals started expanding, and then modern medicine, antibiotics became godlike. They were saving people. Antibiotics were doing things and saving people that earlier would have just not had a chance at all. And so people started trusting doctors, trusting hospitals, and sending their loved ones to the hospital. And when they came back healed, like magic, then they kept sending them to the hospital until eventually people were dying there. And then as funeral homes also took over in conjunction with that, what happened is now we have people who the medical professionals take the one who's sick or dying, and then immediately after, the funeral home comes to get them. And so people don't even see their dead a lot of times now, like very often.
Wow. It's mind-blowing to think about that, because that's right around the 100-year mark where this new paradigm was instilled. Previously, you could say in the old world, it was a very family-centric, community-centric situation. But this paradigm shift just kind of disconnected us and made it seem normal, at least in the Western world, to let the dead people die over there. We'll see them one last time, but that's the hospital's job. That's really kind of sad, but you're here changing that.
Yeah, hopefully I'm here changing that, and hopefully everybody who listens to this and everyone who goes through the course, that they're out there changing it too, because I'm just one person. We need a lot of us. I mean, this is going to take generations to heal.
Oh, yes.
So, we're already 5 generations or so, if you're considering it 20 years, into this, and it's going to take a lot longer. Well, who knows what's going to happen with our planet, but it's going to take a long time for this to be reworked into community. I wish so much that now that we have recognized the power of antibiotics, that we can appreciate that, but not couple it with the idea that doctors and medicine are the same as a god. And bring some of this back home again, and some of like the trust and spirituality that used to accompany that that used to actually be the antibiotics, right? The trust and the praying and the spirituality and the care, the attentiveness. We lost a lot of that when the antibiotics came in. So we gave away so much power.
It's interesting. It's part of the human story, and we will rebalance that, because the science, these antibiotics and other medications, they did come from inspiration and they do help people, but it wasn't meant to be something to then go, oh, okay, we have this now. Goodbye, natural world. Goodbye, herbalism. Goodbye, all of the earth's wonderful gifts that have been there for millennia to heal us because of some magic pill. It's part of the story. You don't want to put a value judgment on it, but it does seem like as this spiritual awakening is happening across the planet, that things like natural medicines, being a death doula and understanding the death process is exploding. There's an awakening happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it couldn't come soon enough, with all of the death and destruction and anger that's going on. We need this information, just basic care for the dying, and just to be absolutely spread and given out as widely and freely as possible. The problem is that there are those of us that want to study death and dying, but when you do, it really tears you apart in a lot of ways. And our society is not built in a way that supports your falling apart. And so it actually takes a lot of emotional bandwidth and time to just bawl your head off and wonder what the hell you're doing here. You need that space in order to really then get to the other side, which is, I'm here now. I'm empowered. But it takes that shadow zone. It takes so much work in there, and our society, and I'm guessing a lot of cultures around the world, are just not set up for that.
No, but unfortunately they have to face it. All of us as humans, we have to face our shadow now in order to activate this ascension, in order to reconnect with Gaia and the creator and put this balance, this complete cosmic balance back in order. We need to do that. It's happening. And you're training people to do this, right? Now, your book in itself, it seems like, is a training manual. You have so many techniques and methods and other things that can help people. But beyond the book, you're also training people to do this.
I am. So the book, I wrote it realizing that I had a certain amount of information that needed to get out to as many people as fast as possible. So it's filled with a lot of basic information, like what happens during this period. So just basic information, also spirituality for people who want to explore that. Also herbalism for people who want to explore that. But there are a few chapters that are just about what happens to the body when it's dying. And that's the information that I felt like needed to get out there as fast as possible. So, and then the trainings just ended up coming naturally, really. People loved the book so much and wanted to know more. And then that's when I can actually share all of my passions and beliefs and like get into the nitty gritty of things, because, you can do so much more of that. If I put all of my beliefs into a book, I don't think that's a very good idea, because they change over and over again. The world changes quickly. I keep changing. So, yeah. And then the in-person retreats that I do too, people, oh my gosh, they, when the topic is death, people get close really quickly because you're cutting away all of the other BS. And it's a beautiful thing.
It's like, hey, by the way, we're all going to be out of here pretty quick. So let's all bond right now, because that's really the truth. We talk about this a lot. We're here so briefly. We have to do this work. And when you realize that, then you truly cherish each moment of life, because you know how fleeting it is.
Definitely.
And you said in your book that the experience of death is transformational for both the patient and the caregiver. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I talk about how there's never really one death doula in the room with the person who's dying. So even if it's just two people, even if it's just the death doula and the person who's dying, well, the person who's dying is actually the teacher. because the death doula hasn't been there themselves. So they can be the companion, and maybe they read the books, and maybe they can look at the charts, and maybe their physical body is active and working and capable of assisting. But when you think of it, the person who's dying is the one who's doing all of the teaching. They're modeling a way to die. And it doesn't even have to be a perfect way. It could be a disastrous way,
Right.
according to your, what you believe. And you could, but still, then you've learned so much, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it like that. So they're just modeling one way, one example of the way one death went. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's a dance between the two. And I encourage my students to realize that they have a strong body now, and that's why they're in this position. And one day they will not have a strong body, and somebody will need to serve them. And so I really encourage people to humble themselves. You are not the savior. You are not the one with all of the knowledge. You are not the one. Just humble, humble, humble. Bring it down. And then what's left when you do reduce it to that is just love, just serving. It's very simple.
Right. And unbelievably fulfilling, I imagine, because you're just literally in that bandwidth of perfect service, you could say.
Yeah. As I also remind people also just not to expect a thank you, because the work is also, you do this work, and if it fulfills you in your heart, and then that is definitely the goal. That's what you want. But don't be surprised if nobody thanks you. The person dying, they might say thank you. They might be very busy dying, and they might never say thank you. The people around the person who's dying, you may have done everything you could. You may have changed your schedule. You may have found babysitters. You may have, but the people around them in the community, or in that inner circle, in that inner nest, they might be so brokenhearted that nobody actually says thank you to you. And so you definitely need to be doing it for yourself, for self-love, for that good golden feeling that you get, that does not need to be, recognized, justified.
Exactly. Just service to the whatever that is, that divine mystery.
Yes.
You know that soul is there thanking you energetically. Do you feel an energetic attachment to these people as they go? And since you've dealt with so many now, like, do you still feel attached? Do you do things to clear yourself after these sessions?
Regularly, no. It doesn't. So some people kind of stick around for a little while. Some people, over the years, they've started showing up to me. So a couple times people have announced that they're dead. And I'm like, ooh. And at first I was really hesitant to admit what was going on, or it's kind of embarrassing. I don't know. Like, I've got a great spiritual life and outlook, but I'm still like, that's kind of weird territory. But it got to the point where I couldn't deny it anymore. So
wow.
A couple times, not all that often, but a couple times, somebody will want to give a message. They'll be like, oh, hey, and I have to tell them, I'm like, look, I can't contact your wife. I'm like, that's going to freak her out. This is not my domain. This is not my territory. I hear what you're saying. But yeah, so.
Wow. So doing this activated a mediumship ability within you.
Yes.
Wow. And when did that start to show itself? Like, how long into this?
Years.
Wow.
So it started once I realized exactly what was going on. I could date back to other times, and they just continued to get more frequent and more often, but probably 2 years ago. So, it took 8 years or so for any of it to come.
Wow. Through. That is mind blowing, because there is an attachment. It seems like ethereally that you're fulfilling a role. Like you're in this position for that soul. Some people would say you made an agreement with that soul to be with it as it passed before life even started. There's so many different factors, as you know, but it does seem like you're there with them for a purpose. And when they talk to you now your mediumship is activated. Now a whole different dimension is going to open up. 2 years is just the beginning.
Yeah. Yes, that's quite possible.
Wow.
It has sometimes been a little bit disturbing though, because not all of them die pleasantly. So I'm a novice at this. I need to get Sally Crow on the line and be like, hey, Sally, I know she was a guest on your show. She's the pro. But yeah, it's interesting.
I think we're all equal. We're all fulfilling roles. Everybody has different talents and skills. Sure, some people have more experience, but we're doing it. You're helping people. You've helped so many people. It must feel amazing.
It does feel good.
So how many times have you been there at the exact moment of death?
I guess I don't know, but but the times that I have been profound.
Tell me about it.
The very first one was, I was a hospice volunteer. And this gentleman, this was a huge learning experience for me. It's so funny when you decide to do this work, and I was also a nurse assistant at the time. And so I've lost track because I worked in residential care. So there were those that died within the residential care system too. So it was not just death doula deaths, but also in various other places. So as a hospice volunteer, we're not in the hundreds. I'm not talking that's not even 100 people have I been with. So there, let's see, the one hospice patient that was the first person that I was with when they died, they were being wheeled in from the ambulance had dropped them back off at their home. And I was in the kitchen with the gentleman's wife, and they wheeled the man in and put him in front of the television set. And there were infomercials playing on the television. And I was just kind of looking around like, okay, she was smoking at the kitchen table. She didn't get up. She didn't talk to him. And I got up and I went to his bedside. And they transferred him from the stretcher into the hospital bed. And I started to ask him if he wanted something different on the television, but he was not responding. And so I asked his wife, who was in the kitchen, I'm like, I just want to be helpful. Can I get him, does he have any special blankets that he likes? Just to try and make it a little bit more comfortable. Can I change the station? Is there something that he likes to watch on TV? And she said, no, that's fine. And he died right then, right there in front of the TV with the infomercials on. The sharpest knife can cut through any tomato. And I was looking down at the man, and he wasn't breathing and wasn't breathing and wasn't breathing. And I checked his wrist and he wasn't breathing. And and sometimes they can all of a sudden take a breath. And I wasn't all that experienced at the time, but he did actually die right then, right there. And I had to let go of so much at that time because I was wasn't pissed. I was in shock. And I was wondering why the wife hadn't attended to him. And I was wondering why, I'm like, even a nature show? Can I put on a space program? Can I put on literally anything other than infomercials? But if that's the way that he fell asleep every night before he went to bed, was listening to infomercials, maybe he fell asleep in his recliner every single night listening to infomercials. And so that was the most relaxing, peaceful state that he could be in. And it was enough so that he was able to leave his body. So who am I to judge that?
Yeah, it's mind blowing how we're all different. But that did have, like you said, a huge effect on you because the soul transferred out of the body right there in front of you. But there's been other times as well. Has there been any supernatural experiences where you see like a light or an or you know, anything like that? I personally, it's interesting when you talk about, well, I've only been around 100. I personally haven't been around any person that passed. It's definitely mind blowing to me. Have you seen anything like that? Have you felt anything like that?
So yes, definitely. And if you talk with people who like hospice nurses who, people who are in like working in a nursing home, they're the ones who get like lots and lots of exposure to death. Not me. I'm not with everybody that often, but, yes is the answer. So there are times when something very strange will happen. Like the one time a phone rang in the room. So we had asked a question to the woman who had died. We're like, oh, I don't really know. So, would you like something like this? And she was dead. And the phone rang. And all of us there and we looked over at the phone and I picked it up and I said, hello? And there was nobody there.
Oh my God.
And all of us in the room just kind of looked at each other, goosebumps.
I'm getting chills right now.
Up and down. And I just hung the phone back up again. There are other times when I felt this really strongly with my father-in-law when he died. Do you know Alex Gray?
Of course, I'm looking. It's funny because I have an Alex Gray framed poster in my office here. It's the lovers, the kissing, the two people. So I'm looking on I'm looking at my Alex Gray. I can see your Alex Gray. Yes, I love Alex Gray.
Yeah. Oh God, his artwork is just unbelievable to me. And if you are a death worker, I don't care if you don't appreciate his artwork, you're going to understand where it comes from, because all of the eyes in almost everything, eyeballs.
Yes.
That's what happens. So you feel like all of a sudden, I'll speak for myself. I feel like I'm being watched by something very, very big, like something inconceivable. And it is an awareness and an awakened state that is aware of you. And I am aware of it. And it's this exchange of, I don't know, it's ineffable. Yes is the answer. So,
wow. So essentially those experiences were your most profound, you could say, when you felt those presences with you as these people were passing. It's something, it's that great mystery, but do you also feel the ancestors or that person's spirit guides?
Oh, nobody has ever asked me that before.
I'm a unique guy.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I know it's just taking me a second to think. So, I guess I'm not sure. So I'm not sure that I have felt, okay, so there becomes a kind of buzz that's happening sometimes in this. There's a kind of vortex that opens and there is a vibration of something happening. I can't see spirits. I can't sense individual spirits. Like when I have had contact from people that I've worked with, or even sometimes randomly, I feel it. Like I feel it. This feels very different. It feels like energy around and it feels intense, which feels different than when the soul actually leaves or the spirit actually departs, which is like that awakened part. So it feels different to have that charged environment. And that's when people will say things like, oh, my mother's here.
Oh.
And those are the times when people in the room go, and you just kind of look around and you're like, where?
No.
Where? Or when people are dying and they're reaching for something, you know, or they're saying, I'm looking for the key. That's a common one. Or I'm looking for the door. I can't find the door, or something like that. And they'll start doing things. They'll start touching, connecting, pulling, grasping. Those are the magical moments that are so cool. And, you know, if people don't feel that, I want to make sure that people don't feel like, oh, that's a bummer. I didn't feel that when my mom or dad died, or I can't feel that, or I didn't feel that. That's totally fine. So it's not that that thing didn't happen. It's not that their transition is any less magical or any less beautiful. It's just different people's frequencies. And I have found that we need both people here. We need the people who feel and sense spirit and all the energy, and then we need the people here who don't, who can actually get to work and do the business and make the phone calls and go put the tea kettle on and get lunch ready. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
We need both.
Everyone has that root in source 5D or wherever that is consciousness, but there are people that are more 3D centric, and there are more people that are ethereally centric like us. And together, what a team. It doesn't mean that the 3D people are more or less spiritual. It just means we're all fulfilling different roles. We're operating on different frequencies.
Definitely. And they can end up seeing beautifully magical things in everyday items. It's not, yeah, that's why I love, that's why I named my nonprofit Village Deathcare, because it takes a village. Everybody in the village has a skill. Everybody has something they can contribute. Even if people don't want to be bedside, there's so many things that they can help with. There are so many ways that they can make phone calls or mow the lawn or pick the kids up from school or get the groceries or start a meal train. So you don't necessarily need to be doing the physical hands-on care for the person.
So when did you start Village Deathcare? Tell me about this. This is your nonprofit. Is this nationwide? Is this different people, nodes of people around the country helping people pass on?
Oh, I wish. It is just a baby. It's a little fledgling.
Babies grow. Babies grow. As you know.
Babies do grow. And hopefully the nonprofit will grow. I need somebody. I'm doing so much work that I need somebody to really take Village Deathcare and get it out there and make it happen. So if anybody listening,
there's some grant writers out there. I'm telling you, there are people that want to do this because it is very important, but you felt like founding this nonprofit was a means to get this out and normalize this more, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So the idea behind this, death doulas it's not a profession that is reimbursable by insurance companies. So death doulas can't bill an insurance company. There's no licensure. So death doulas either get paid on a sliding scale or they get direct payment from their client or patient or customer, whatever they call them. And so that can be challenging because people oftentimes, don't have enough money out of pocket to pay for this service. And yet death doulas should be getting paid for their services, for their time. They're putting their heart and energy and time into it.
Absolutely.
So the idea behind the nonprofit is that people can donate to the nonprofit. They can bequeath money. We can have grants, and the nonprofit will pay the death doulas so that the death doulas can do the service for free. So it doesn't matter if they're serving somebody who's dying out on the street. It doesn't matter if they're serving somebody who has absolutely no means to pay them whatsoever, because they calculate their hours and their hours are reimbursable through the nonprofit. So that's the whole idea behind it.
Wow, that's beautiful, because I do remember when midwives and birth doulas were not getting compensated from insurance companies, and now they are, at least in my state in Oregon. I know several that do, but we should change this. This seems like something that's very easily fixable.
Yeah, a challenge is that as soon as so I'm a very grassroots person, and the death doula movement was actually a grassroots movement to bring death care back to the families, to reawaken that natural service in communities. But what happened is people started to want to make money for it. And so then bigger organizations said, oh, we can make money off from training people, and I want to have the best training program. And so we should be setting the standard here. We should have the scope of practice. And then we can offer that to, on a state level or, on a federal level, to have death doulas licensed. As soon as you're back in that system again, you've lost all autonomy. And so, yes, it would be cool to be able to get that compensation, but death doulas were supposed to be correcting a problem. And that just sounds like it's kind of like another Band-Aid solution that still, and what happens is then people feel like, oh, I can't care for my sister who's dying because I'm not trained, because I don't have the license, because I X, Y, and Z. And my whole viewpoint, and those who support community death care, it's very murky, actually. Really don't want that at all. They want to empower the community and empower the family.
That makes sense. You want to keep bureaucracy out of something like this. But again, everybody needs to get paid for their work, which is why you set up this nonprofit, which is so huge. You're starting something that I feel like is really going to take off and really expand, because this is so important. End of life plans, death nesting, planning all of this. It's a huge part of the experience. And that's what death nesting is. I mean, that's the title of your book. Death nesting is preparing for all of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Death nesting is the book title. It's also a physical preparation, like one might do before they give birth or before they menstruate, actually like doing some nesting. And you could do that for yourself or for somebody else. And I also consider death nesting just a way of life, just a way of living, that you're nesting for your death every single day of your life. And I know that in some ways that might sound morbid, but what it does is it keeps me in check. So I don't mind sharing it with people because it's really beneficial for me. So when I'm pissed at somebody, I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that in me. I don't want that in me. I want love. I want to love this person. And if I can't love them directly, I want to think of love itself when their name comes up or whatever it is. Like, I don't have to forgive them. I don't have to like attach anything to them. Just the experience, just the, a neutral feeling of love. So yeah, I think it's okay. Death as a motivator, I think, can be okay.
Right. Because you know that is there. It's coming. So why waste your time with the attachments? A lot of the things you talk about, people's issues, their anxiety, their stress related to these topics, at the end of the day, it seems it's all related to just attachment to how it should be, where they're going, the feelings, not wanting to deal with the feelings. So if they could let go of the attachment, that would help immensely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard though, because, we're like, first of all, we love things. Like, we love things and we love our things, and our things make us feel safe. It's what we know. We know where our bed is. We know what X, Y, and Z. But there are times when, in your life, when just the carpet gets ripped out from underneath you and you don't know.
Right.
You get a diagnosis and you don't know, or somebody you love has a diagnosis and you don't know, or somebody is going to be dying, but you don't know when. And these are the times when people really flail, just completely ungrounded and just spinning out of control, because what is not encouraged in our society is to both apply like a trust, like, okay, I'm going to just trust. And I'm not even going to say trust that the outcome will be okay. I'm not going to finish the sentence. Just trust. That's it. And that feeling is really something that you need to practice. And so crises, emergency situations, things that come up that are unsettling are really incredible opportunities to practice a sense of trust, with just relax, release over and over and over again. And if you're able to do that in these micro doses throughout your life, you're going to be able to do it a heck of a lot easier when it's your dying time.
Oh, absolutely. That trust, that faith, and just knowing that everything is love. So wherever you're going, whatever happens, whatever process unfolds, have faith, have trust that it was divinely designed, that you're a part of it. And in a sense, it's a graduation. Would you agree with that statement, that death is a graduation, that we should be celebrating this as if somebody got a triple doctorate in humanity?
Did they though? Did they? I wonder what is it that they did while they were here? They actually get, like, I think so many things to me.
Well, some people just get a participation trophy. How about that?
Yeah. You got a certificate of completion. Yeah. But you know, when I think about it, it is all love. And one of the most, I think, tangible ways of understanding this is, let's say you're really angry with somebody and they said something and it made you angry, and you're, you know, thinking about what you're going to say back to them or what you should have said, or, you know, whatever it is. So you've got this whole drama going on in your head about, you know, something. And then all of a sudden, like a car crashes in front of you. You're not angry anymore. You're not angry at that person anymore. It vanishes because it was never real. So all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm okay. Is this person okay? Things get like really tight and narrow and also completely blown out at the same time. Or a tragedy happens, a crisis happens, a storm, whatever it happens to be. Those things, when you get a flash of reality, a flash of mortality, all of those arguments, all of those angst and petty things that we fixate on vanish. And that to me means it's because it never existed.
Again, that's the attachments. We create these attachments, emotional attachments. This should have been that way because of this way. But in the grand scheme of things, in the brief moment of life that we're here, it's pretty much meaningless. Like you're saying, it has no substance.
Yeah.
So tell me more. I want to know more. So have you ever been with anyone that was drifting between dimensions, where they were here, they were there, they were here, and they came back with some stories or messages from the other side?
Okay. Yeah, one gentleman that I worked with, he was a Buddhist practitioner, and I feel like he was talking to me while he was transitioning.
Really?
He was talking to me about about all of the texts and all of the teachings that he had been studying I don't know about his whole life, but for many, many decades. And he was telling me, he's like, oh my gosh, this makes sense now. I know what this means now. So all of these different realizations started flowing from him. And I was on the phone with him. So I was like, oh my God, how do I record this? Because it was just incredibly profound. So I think that's probably the closest. I think that's the closest, besides people saying that they see people in the room with them.
Wow, that's still huge though, because this person, I know, like you talk about in your book, you have been a studying Buddhist for a very long time. Are you still practicing?
Yes, but I don't like to claim that too openly, because Buddhist practitioners, there's a lot of different schools, a lot of different beliefs, a lot of different everything, and I don't like to be tested.
No, I understand.
Yes.
But you did live in a Buddhist community for a while.
I did, yeah.
Okay, so there is some of those teachings in there.
Oh, yeah, and I still meditate, and I still read all of these Dharma books, and so yes.
So the information was coming to him. Everything was unlocking. He was getting the downloads, and he was just giving you a glimpse of that. What a blessing.
Yeah. And it was so beautiful to hear him in just awe. Like he was just experiencing these things that he had only read about in a book and was able to verbalize it and tell me about it and confirm.
Well, it seems like that's a gift for you for all the service that you've done. You get to have these special moments where you have this pathway, brief pathway to the other side, where this information's coming through for you through this person. And that's part of the gift, the thank you from the universe for being such a helpful soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, you can tell just by me going like, as you're saying these things, because it doesn't leave. Like when I think about it, no matter who I'm there with at their bedside, every one of them is so incredibly unique. It's their own way that they did it. And it's just, it's so beautiful. And you get to meet people. Some people I feel sad about. I'm like, gosh, I wish I knew you a long time ago because you're really cool. And then some people, I don't necessarily feel that, but just some kind of experience of awe of being with them. But yeah, it's the most tender, vulnerable time in their entire life because, even as a baby, when they come into the world, they have no concept of earth. And so they're coming in with just an open mind, like an open experience. So then being with somebody at the end of their life, when they're loaded with experiences, and then they have to let go of all of them, is just, again, just
wow.
ineffable. I'm even a writer, and I don't even, sometimes I'm like, I don't have any words for this.
Well, my mind's blown. I can feel what you mean. Like, it's just, you see the divine processes, these universal paradigms that are beyond time, space, and humanity unfold right before you. And that is humbling, very humbling. Yeah. It's like watching a star exploding or a planet, coming to its light. It's just, it's a universal cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like if you were able to hold a mirror up to a star and have a star look at its reflection. That's what I feel like. Just if there was some kind of awareness that happens in the reflection, that moment is just, there was a woman that I was working with and her family was around, and this woman, I couldn't believe that she was still upright, because I'm like, I think that you're leaving your body right now, but you're sitting up straight. And I didn't know when she was going to die, but I knew it was coming soon. So I asked her, I said, would you like a visualization technique so that when you're ready to leave, you can use this technique? And she nodded. Her eyes were going every which way. She wasn't really seeing anything, but her eyes were wide open. And she nodded, and I said, okay. And there was some music playing. And I said, do you hear that cello? And she nodded. And I said, when you're ready, I want you to ride out on that note. I want you to sit on top of that note and ride out of your body. And her eyes rolled back into her head, and she fell backwards, not violently. She was in bed, and her family members in the room were like, because they thought she had just died, and she didn't, but she could have. And so she did it. She was that ready. So just the visualization of how to actually do it. I'm like, okay, you're going to do this so easily. Whenever you're ready, you're going to do it the way you want. But even the family, I was saying before that you don't always get the feedback from family, but her family was like, so that was interesting.
Well, to me, that seems shamanic in nature. Like what you did there, you reached into the consciousness of this person from another dimension into that dimension and guided them there while they're there. To me, that's the definition of shamanism.
Yeah.
So what do you think, though, about medically assisted dying? Now, I know that you talk about it in your book, you kind of take a neutral stance, but energetically, when you're dealing with people that are passing in this way, Do you notice a difference? Is there something different because they made a conscious choice about the time or anything else like that?
So this is such a fascinating topic to me.
Oh, it's mind blowing to me.
What's that?
It's mind blowing to me as well. It just blows me away.
Yeah. So there are so many angles that we could come at this from. So medical aid in dying is just a real quick glimpse here at what it is. So there's only two handfuls of states in the United States that have legalized it. So I think it's only like 10 or 12 states at this point where you're able to get a prescription from a doctor. The process is not easy. Not every doctor will give the prescription. You need a 6-month or less diagnosis. You need another doctor to second it for you. You have to administer it yourself. There are all these different hoops. Insurance doesn't cover it, so you have to have enough money for it. So one of my angsts with it is just how the system is set up, because to me, that's a privileged system. It is not available to everybody. It is only available to some people in some states. It is, you need to have transportation to the doctor's office. You need to have somebody to help you with the paperwork if you don't read or write. You have to have witnesses. If your physician does not agree with it, does not want to prescribe it to you, you have to find another physician that will do it. So then you have to have the means of being able to find that person and then another doctor to second it. And you need enough money to do all of this. And so it's not like if you live in Vermont and medical aid in dying is available to you, it does not even necessarily mean that you have access to it, even if you meet all of the criteria. So I don't like that. I feel like it's just another bar, another barrier that makes people feel like something's out of their reach. Like that's not available for you.
What about Canada though? Because it seems like Canada has a very expansive program.
Canada extended it to those who have disabilities,
right.
And even people who have disabilities, they're not even totally on board with this. So you don't even need a 6-month or less diagnosis in Canada. But there are other things that can happen. So if, let's say, a family member has been taking care of their loved one, and they've been taking care of their loved one regardless. Let's leave Canada out of this for a minute, but let's go back to the United States. So
sure.
If their loved one has 6-month or less diagnosis and they have access to medical aid in dying, and let's say they even have the prescription, they've got the prescription. I've seen firsthand pressure from, I'll just say the family, for the person to ingest the medication.
Oh, God, Jesus. That sounds horrible. That sounds energetically just horrible.
Yes. So there are those stories out there. I don't want to glorify it. The same thing happens, which is why the community of those with disabilities, the differently abled community in Canada was like, how dare you put us in the category with people who are dying? You think that our life is not worth living, so you're giving us an exit. And similarly, those people could feel pressure to actually take medical aid in dying because it's available, because their life is quote unquote so, not worth living or, causing. So it's really nuanced. So what I like, what I prefer, a couple different things. People have always hastened death. Before the doctors and lawyers and state legislation got involved, people have always hastened death in many different ways. And you've referred to shaman or your local witch, or what herbs or mushrooms in your backyard will do the trick, or grabbing a bottle of whiskey and going outside on a cold night. So I know that, and that sounds kind of crazy and extreme, but what I'm saying is that as soon as the doctors and lawyers and state laws get involved, things get really complex. And then you need to qualify for these things. There's also VSED, voluntary stopping of eating and drinking. So you just taper off your eating and drinking, which also is a way of hastening death. Coming off from your meds is a way of hastening death if you have meds that are extending your life. Yeah, so there are other options. But what I don't like about medical aid in dying is people tend to fixate on it like it's gold, like it's a beautiful thing that's going to solve all the problems. And it's not. The death still affects everybody differently. It's not necessarily, sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes it's perfect.
Really?
Sometimes it's beautiful. It's just the way the person wanted, and everybody is fine and it's great and whatever. Then there are the people who are really, really upset in the family that the person hastened their death with medical aid in dying, and there's a lot of emotional fallout. It's so nuanced. There's so many different things that I'm like, it's hard for me to, one woman came to me and she was crying uncontrollably because she witnessed the death, medical aid in dying. She was, it was their family member, and she knew this was coming, and everybody knew it was coming, and the family member took it intentionally, and everything was great. But then the woman after was crying, and she said, "Why do I feel like I just witnessed something so violent?" And I had to think about this. I was like, and I believe it's because I don't know, but I'm speculating that when somebody is leaving their body, they like are ramping up, and they'll even like sometimes they'll be dying, and then they'll get another wind, and they'll all of a sudden sit up and talk to people, or they say, "Oh, I'm thirsty," or "I'm hungry," and then they die soon after. So that's pretty common, that people will be dying and then they'll rally and then they'll actually die. So in that process, there's like this ramping up of energy where they come back just so that they have enough momentum to like get out of their body. And because it's work, it's labor getting out of your body, just like giving birth, labor, getting the baby into this planet. And that's missing, or at least I'm not going to generalize. In that circumstance, that was missing. And so it was quick. It was sudden. There was no ramping up. The person was fine, and then they were dead. And I'm saying fine as in they were, communicating, talking, and it was peaceful. It was a peaceful transition. It was, there was nothing dramatic that happened. And yet this person was sobbing. She said, "Why do I feel like it was so violent?" And so that's what I think.
Wow. So the soul literally got ripped out of the body versus going through that ramping up natural process that is kind of like a vibratory adjustment, I would imagine, versus just getting rocket shipped, ripped out, and you're trying to adjust. Wait, hold on, I'm not resonant with the frequency yet. Okay, there, we got there. I can only imagine.
Yeah. I don't know. And, I haven't been around, I've never actually been there when the person has ingested it. So I hear all of these stories, and I have, I teach that the course that I teach. And so it's a 12-week course, and there's about 20 to 25 students in each session, and everybody writes an essay a week for the most part. If everybody's doing their homework, they write an essay a week. So I have thousands of essays that I have read on people's experiences with all kinds of different things, which is why I could write another book. But medical deaths are not always, they're not always perfect.
No, definitely not, especially if you think about the various things that could happen.
Yeah. So, but it is fascinating. And should people have the right to die? I feel, yeah, of course. I just don't like the complexities.
It does seem very strange. I heard recently that Canada is thinking about expanding it to mentally ill people and also children, babies, infants. So I don't know enough about it. I'm just thinking about it spiritually and energetically. And as you think about Buddhism and reincarnation, like how would that affect that? To me, it would be like a different energy almost.
Yeah, those who have mental challenges, who are chronically depressed, and also infants and children, that has been done in the Netherlands. So Canada better be, I'm sure that they are. Actually, I'm not sure that they are. Like they should really look at what has gone on in the Netherlands, because that is not always cool either. It has been, it's just so fascinating. So at what age do you allow somebody, let's say a 12-year-old is threatening suicide? Do you allow them? A lot of people would say no. Do you allow them to have the prescription to end their life? Is 22 old enough? Is 30 old enough? Is 50 old enough? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So then everybody starts trying to determine like what the proper age is. And I'm like, this is bonkers. And at the same time, one of the points, you can read the story of, there's an article about what happened in the Netherlands. One mother, I believe it was a mother, whose son jumped in front of a train to end their life. The mother said, I wish the prescription had been available, because their death impacted everybody on the train, impacted the driver, impacted the cleanup crew, impacted all of the patrons on the train. And so I can see that side of it too, right? Like
there's so many different variables. There's so many different ways to look at it. There has to be moral and ethical guidelines. It doesn't feel good. I'm just going to say intuitively for me, it doesn't feel good. I feel like the divine plan is perfect, and however things unfold, that's how they're meant to unfold. And yet this exists. So I just don't know. And I just don't know if beings, we have autonomous rights. Do we have the right to pull our own plug at any age? It's a heavy concept.
I think it's potentially a segue to something that's really dangerous, which is, if the law is saying who has the right to die, how easily could that slip into something else where, there are a lot of people who have been abused by the medical system that do not trust medical aid in dying. So a lot of people of color are like, how dare you offer me medical aid in dying? Like, you didn't take care of me all of these years through my medical needs, and now you're giving me an easy way out? Like, it's insulting.
And those hospitals get tax kickbacks and things like that. So they have this dark incentive to kind of push this.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know if they are pushing it or not, but I'm just seeing like
it just seems
messy.
It is messy. It does seem in Canada that there's a big push for it. I don't really hear it much in the States, but because I'm involved in media and different news things that we cover, I see a lot of this, and I see it coming from Canada quite a bit. This kind of normalization of like, oh, well, you can choose to get treatment or you could just choose to leave. Yeah, whatever you feel like you want to do.
Yeah. And how quickly will it happen if the treatment is not available? That I'm just really speculating now. They're like, this is your option.
Or, hey, if you want to,
we don't have any more painkillers. We don't have any more meds. So here, and that these pills are just handed out. Like, I don't know.
Hey, if you really want to speculate, you could eventually say if you don't have a certain social credit score, perhaps you might have to be part of the MAID program.
We could go really Black Mirror on this, couldn't we?
But death, it's such an important part of our life. It's part of our cyclical nature, and it's important for humans. But you also talk about in your book how important it is for pets, because these are living, conscious beings. I love my cat. People love their pets. They need that same death nesting, that same process of love, compassion, caring, and all of that during their death process.
Yes, absolutely. I think the idea of pet doulas is the most beautiful thing, to care for your little fur babies. I love them. People have asked me to come doula their animals, and I say no. So maybe some people do this, but I coach them how to do it, because the animal doesn't want a stranger in the house.
Right.
The animal doesn't want, they're like, think about it. Like when you have company, my cats run and hide, and my dog gets completely overjoyed and beside himself. I don't want either of those things to happen energetically when my pet is dying. So I or my family members will be our pet's doula. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I just like to support people, whatever it is that they want to do. Let them talk through it, because euthanization is a hard thing to consider too.
But with the pets, you do utilize the same techniques, the same practices for the most part as you would with a human being.
Well, in the US, you ingest the medication, but with a drink. It's a cocktail. So you have to drink it yourself or with a straw. But in other countries, and I believe in Canada, but this was, I haven't checked very recently, it's an injection. So yes, similar to animals.
Interesting. Well, we've had such an incredible interview. My God, I know we could talk for hours, but there's just a couple more questions I want to ask you. Okay. So or perhaps maybe you've heard that the compound DMT, which is in our brain, is released when we're born. It's released when we're dying. Some people say now it's in 5 different regions of the brain. It's all throughout nature. What do you think about DMT being released at the time of death? Have you ever noticed that frequency specifically?
Oh my gosh, Jake, what are you doing to me? You're asking me these questions. Okay. No, I can't detect when DMT is being released in the brain. I've done 5-MeO. I've smoked toad venom.
Did you have a near-death experience? Because that's what I had, an NDE when I did that, actually.
Yes.
That most people have. When they do the 5-MeO, it's the true simulation, dry run death experience.
Yes. It was like nothing that I have ever experienced before. And I don't know if I'll do it again, because I was like, got it. And I'll do that again when I die. Maybe I'll change my mind, because I had a wonderful experience. It didn't scare me at all. It was a peak moment in my life, but yeah. So, but it has helped me trust that what you're doing with your mind at your time of death is really important. That's what it has helped me trust. So I do believe that we should try to tend to our minds as carefully as possible throughout our living and where we place our attention, so that when we die, no matter where we are, no matter what the situation is, we can access that place in our mind that is peaceful.
Right.
So, because we don't know how it's going to go. We don't know if we'll have a heart attack, a stroke, a car accident. Not all of them are beautiful in bed the way you'd like it, or medicated, So it has made me, especially when you find out other people's stories about what has happened to them in their experience, because they're all really different. And they may have been in like a great state of mind when it happened, and then they just had this really intense experience. Who knows? I think there's no rhyme or reason to what or how people experience things, but it did make me aware that, or really solidify how important it is to pay attention to your mind now.
Wow. And isn't that mind-blowing that these humans, our fellow humans, are having this experience, that 5-MeO DMT experience, as they're leaving this dimension?
Yeah. I have a friend who believes that every death doula should do it.
Oh, at least once. Yes.
At least once.
It's a great recreational thing. And now that it's becoming legalized in places like Colorado, Seattle, here in Portland, Oregon, it's going to be a lot more available and pharmaceutically created.
Oh, 5-MeO. It's being
well, not 5-MeO. The NN-DMT is the synthesized version. So there are two different experiences. The the 5-MeO DMT is like the true NDE experience. The NN-DMT, while different, has a similar potency of experience, but it's totally different. It'll take you, to the aliens, the gnomes. It's a different, far different experience, but that still will be available as it's legalized. That 5-MeO will be available in dispensaries.
Amazing. That's good. That's good. And then eventually they'll stop harvesting it from the toads, because we got to watch out for our friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had one of those toads come up to me in Moab, Utah, and I looked at it and I was like, God, I could take you home with me, but you need to just stay here. You don't want to come out with me.
Aww.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But before we go, this has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for your time. It's been so cool talking about these things. And I just want to ask you before we go, do you think that people will start to really bring death home? You talk about home funerals, death nesting. Are we culturally shifting to allow this to be a normal part of our lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's going to have to. There's not going to be a choice. Because there are not enough care facilities for people. The baby boomer generation, they have just started entering residential care and assisted living, but there's a whole force of other baby boomers behind them, and there are not enough facilities, and there are not enough people to care for them. This might be one place where AI ends up, robots end up taking care of patients. We're kind of looking at that scale. Not that I have read anything like that. I'm hypothesizing because there already is a shortage of caregivers, and nurse assistants are paid so miserably. And it's the most demanding work. It's emotionally demanding. It's physically demanding. So yes, people are going to have to be dying at home, and that's not necessarily a great thing, because there might not be any care, or you don't know what the level of care is at home. So I do talk about death nesting is about how to care for your loved one at home. However, I also have all of these caveats throughout the book saying, if this is available, if it's not, if this is the dying situation like this, naming alternative locations. And the example that I give in the book is one bed, one lamp, you just have, the most basic accommodations. And I also reference that people die around the world with no running water and with X, Y, and Z. And they're still, they still die. But the care is a big, big, big problem, which is another reason why I'm all for the professionalization of death doula work, and I will never give up on the grassroots and getting it out there. And if it becomes licensed and you can no longer use the term death doula, we'll just change the name. It's just.
Yes, you have to keep it authentic in exactly how it was. It's almost like a transmission throughout time. This role, this human role, it can't be corrupted, though the aspects of it may get absorbed by the system. But no matter what, though, we do want to remind people that no matter how we pass, whether we're totally taken care of in a death nested situation, or we're in a war zone or a car crash, as we leave our body, it's entering a process that's perfect and designed divinely. Therefore, you will go exactly where you need to go, and there's nothing to fear or worry about, right?
Yes. And I would say to practice the feeling of trust. And if you can, and not trust a thing, not trust an outcome, but what does trust feel like to you? And really explore that. And it might be something that you work with for the rest of your life. But trust is, I think, the name of the game. And self-love. Self-love is a really big one too.
I think they go hand in hand, because when you love yourself, you awaken that understanding that you're part of divine love. And then the trust comes into play and the faith. My God, Anne-Marie, this is so cool. Look, I have to tell people where to find you. Let me tell you the website, people. All over the world, 178 countries now. It's pretty amazing. www.AnneMarieKeppel.com. I'm going to spell this. AnneMarieKeppel. AnneMarieKeppel.com. StardustMeadow.com is another website you can go to as well. You can find the in-person death nesting retreats. There's an upcoming retreat this spring in Costa Rica. Sounds amazing. And Village Deathcare, the nonprofit, and the book we're talking about today, Death Nesting, the Heart-Centered Practices of a Death Doula, available on Amazon and anywhere else you can buy books. Anne-Marie, my God, incredible conversation. We knocked it out of the park. We had incredible flow. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with before we go?
Jake, I just love your whole thing. I love your whole vibe. I love your background. The stars are twinkling back there. You're easy to talk to. I like your laugh. Like, it's good. I had a great time. This was really fun.
Well, I guess that means we have to have you back on. So, as things expand, or anytime really you want to come back, just let me know. So thank you again for being here. Please hold through the outro music. And everyone, check out the website, check out the book. If you know you're going to be in Costa Rica in the spring, maybe you can go to this retreat. There's so much going on. Check the websites, and we will see you next week. Midnight on Earth.